Happy Easter!
Yes!
Cool. So, we have a new song today. It's called Gravity of Love. We'll get to it. It's not time yet. But if you would, please stand with us and sing or sway. Pictures of a garden king. Lift up your voice with us and sing. Oh, praise Him, hallelujah. Thou burning sun with golden beam. Thou silver moon with softer gleam. Oh, praise Him, oh, praise Him, hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Thou rushing wind that art so strong, ye clouds that sail in heaven along. Oh, praise Him, hallelujah. Thou rising moon and praise rejoice. Ye lights of evening find the voice. Oh, praise Him, oh, praise Him, hallelujah, hallelujah, Let all things that Creator bless and worship Him in humbleness. Oh, praise Him, hallelujah. Praise, praise the Father, praise the Son, and praise the Spirit, three in one. Oh, praise Him, oh, praise Him, hallelujah, 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 Against all hope I will believe. The raging boys, you fight for peace. You have always made a way. Have the beauty you create. And I know your love is strong enough to meet me where I am. Hallelujah. You will never let me down. Hallelujah. You will never let me down. Your hope runs through my veins. Your love, it paves the way. Hallelujah. 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 But lies ahead I cannot see. I know your voice will carry me. Nothing can pull me from your hand. No power against your hope will stand. And I know your love is strong enough to meet me where I am. Hallelujah. You will never let me down. Hallelujah. You will never let me down. Your hope runs through my veins. Your love, it paves the way. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Be the strength in us. Take hold. We wanna live in your love. Let your hope be the strength in us. Take hold. We wanna live in your love. Hallelujah. You will never let me down. Hallelujah. You will never let me down. Your hope runs through my veins. Your love, it paves the way. Hallelujah. 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 You will never let me down. Hallelujah. You will never let me down. Your hope runs through my veins. Your love, it paves the way. Hallelujah. 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 Come thou fount of every blessing, to my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet by flaming tongues above. Praise the mountain fixed upon it, Mount of God's unchanging love. Here I raise my Ebenezer, hither by thy help I've come, and I hope by thy good pleasure safely to our island home. Jesus saw me when a stranger, wandering from the fold of God. He to rescue me from danger interposed his precious blood. Oh, to grace, how great a debtor daily I want strength to be. Let thy grace now like a feather bind my wandering heart to thee. Come to wander, Lord, I feel thee. Come to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, oh, take and seal it. Seal it for thy courts above. Come to wander, Lord, I feel it. Come to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, oh, take and seal it. Seal it for thy courts above. Come now, bound of every blessing, to my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mountain fixed upon it, Mount of God's unchanging love.
Good morning, everybody. How's it going? Happy Easter. There we go. How y'all doing today? Yeah. What'd you say? Noel's doing good, everybody. Yeah, you're darn right he is. Okay, so as usual, the band, incredible. Yeah. Can we do an extra round of applause for Matt and Lyndon, who haven't been here in a little while? Say hi to them. Thanks, guys. Do you guys like doing the old hymns on Easter? I thought it felt pretty cool. It works because we have the horns here, and there's this band. It's so hard to find good music that's spiritual. But there's this one band, we do like 3 or 4 of their songs. They're called King's Kaleidoscope. Anybody ever heard of them? Yeah. So if you haven't and you like those hymns, look them up. They have a really big like horn section and all sorts of cool stuff. And anyway, King's Kaleidoscope, if you get a bump in sales. That's right. And you can donate by going to diff.church on your phone. But seriously, go to diff.church on your phone. That's the best way to connect with us. You can jump onto the mailing list. You can give us feedback if it's your first time here today. We would love to know like how you found us. We would love to know if you had a good time, if you found it meaningful. We would love to pray with you if you've got something awesome going on in your life, or if you could just use some prayer support. My name is Jarrett, by the way. It's awesome to see everybody here today. I'm super pumped. We got a couple special things. First and foremost, I don't want to forget, we're giving something away to one lucky person out there. Okay, hold on. I don't think I have enough. Here we go. Look at that. Isn't that adorable? One of you is going to win this, so don't look right now. But under one of your chairs, I'm going to ask you to look in a second. We put a piece of used gum. Just kidding. There's an egg taped under one of your chairs. So everybody take a second, look under your chair, see if you see an egg. If you see it, just yell. Good job, TK. Anybody? Okay, I happen to know it's like in and around the second to last row. So if you're back that direction and you're feeling like you want an Easter basket today, nobody wants it. I'm just going to put it here. It's free. Somebody come get it later. Okay, we've got a couple cool things today. Right after service, right outside, we're going to do some stuff for our kiddos. Thanks to the wife for organizing that. Heck yeah. Woo! I know a couple of you are helping her out, and I think she asked during the second to last song, so the song right after the message, just meet her out front and you'll get set up. So on the way out, adults, hang out for a little bit, have fun with the kiddos. I think there's stuff out there for you too. If not, free basket right here. We're not hanging out today after the church. Usually every Sunday we go to a brunch spot. Today we are not, so chill here for a little bit. We don't have to like rush out, hang out front. I think that's it. Oh, movie night. We're doing a movie night, May 15th. Rick, I think you're here somewhere, right? Rick, he's the man. He hooked up this movie night for us. We're going to go see Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. Yeah. You heard him. diff.church, click on events. That's where you can sign up for that, okay? Cool. Yeah. You found it? Come get it. Come get it. Hey, congrats. You deserve this. You earned it. You can even keep the egg. Oh. All right, I think I'm going to get out of here. Is that okay? All right, clap it up for Hannah. Here she comes, everybody. Woo!
Happy Easter. Wow, no response. This is going to go great, I can tell. Did y'all know this is our first Easter here? So we've been here for 2 years, except the first Easter was at home. The whole world was at home. Also, I was pregnant and, puking my guts out. So it was great. It was so great. I pre-recorded an Easter service, and at one point I was in the middle, and I was I don't know, I had almost a sneeze, and I just kept going. It was a lie. I almost threw up. And last year, they kicked us out of the building because they were going to replace the floor, and we were at the park downtown. This is our first Easter in our home, so it feels cool. Thanks for being here. Let's talk about Jesus. Woo. Okay, we've been traveling through the book of John for the last while, and we are going to wrap that up today. This is the end. No more John. Sad. But don't worry, there's the whole rest of the Bible, so we won't run out of stuff to talk about. So we're going to pick up in chapter 21. This is after Jesus died and after he was resurrected. Okay, so we're not doing the typical Easter sermon. Everybody, put your seatbelts on. Chapter 21, verse 1 says this. Later, Jesus appeared again to the disciples beside the Sea of Galilee, and this is how it happened. Several of the disciples were there: Simon Peter, Thomas, nicknamed the twin. I guess that meant something to them. Means nothing to us 2,000 years later, but Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other disciples. And Simon Peter said, I'm going fishing. Me too, said the disciples. Same girl, same. So they all went out in the boat, but they caught nothing all night. And at dawn, Jesus was standing on the beach, but the disciples could not see who he was. And he called out, fellows. What word in Greek translates to fellows? I would like to know. Have you caught any fish? No, they replied. And he said, well, throw your net on the right side of the boat, and you'll get some. So they did, and they couldn't haul in the net because there were so many fish in it. And then the disciple Jesus loved said to Peter, it's the Lord. And when Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his tunic, for he had stripped it off for work. He jumped into the water, headed to shore, and the others stayed with the boat and pulled the loaded net to shore. They were only 100 yards away. Question. Why were they fishing? Jesus had literally, like days ago, been murdered. And then, only a couple of days after that, resurrected. And they had seen him. And they were fishing. Okay? Maybe it was a mystery for them too, because, Peter, he's like a doer. You don't have any doers in the house, they just want to do stuff. He proposes many things throughout the Bible, and they don't always work out. Like, he has good motivations, not always good judgment, like me, personally. And he is like, okay, well, I guess Jesus, all this stuff happened, and we just have to, we had to do something. So what we are going to do is fishing. This is the world the disciples knew, right? Some of them had literally been raised as fishermen on boats, so it felt familiar, felt comfortable to them. It probably felt pretty strange going back to fishing after hanging out with Jesus for several years, and being a part of something so big, but they did need to feed themselves, and they knew how to fish. They knew the sea. They knew all the tricks. They knew how to cast their nets. They knew how to fish. And guess what? It didn't work. And you ever do something, it's the one thing in your life that you're an expert at, and then you try to do it and it does not work. That would be like me getting up here and being what are you talking about? I have some skills in my life, there's a small set, and this is one of them, talking. I don't know, honestly, if talking is a skill. Sometimes I'm bleh. But I can do this. I can't do, my taxes, but I can do this. And they're like, well, you know how to fish. Peter wants to fish. Okay, let's fish. We got something to do. We know how to do that. We're going to be successful. And then all night, nothing. Not one fish did they catch. For hours of fishing. And they're tired and they're frustrated. And just as the sun is coming up, they hear this voice from the shore saying, y'all caught anything? And they're like, no. I have not. And he's like, oh, well, what you have to do is just throw your net on the other side of the boat. Have we ever read this and really read, have you stopped to consider the ridiculousness of that statement? Were they just on the boat oh yeah, on the other side of the boat? Sure, dude. That's our problem is we didn't throw it on the right side of the boat. We literally haven't been doing this our whole lives and all night, but sure. So did they throw their net on the other side of the boat? And then it turns out it was their problem. So I'm sure they were very confused. Maybe they sarcastically threw it. It doesn't say that, but subtext. They were just okay, we'll do it. And then they were like, oh no, fish everywhere. And in a flash, they were like, oh, I know who that is. Because otherwise it doesn't make sense. And Jesus stays on shore and waits for them to drag their massive, mind-blowing load of fish in. And Peter is like, oh my gosh, it's Jesus. Or maybe he was like, oh my Jesus, it's Jesus. He jumps into the water and swims to shore, and he's like, I don't care about you guys, you and your millions of fish, you deal with that. I am swimming to Jesus. And, okay, this is what a story. Why? Because Jesus had actually appeared to them before. All these disciples had seen Jesus. They were all hiding in a room all together after Jesus was murdered and after he was resurrected, because they were all scared that they were going to get arrested, which is a valid fear. that something would happen to them that had happened to Jesus. So they're all hiding, and Jesus just like pops through the wall and was like, hey. And they were like, oh no, oh yes? This is weird. And Jesus was like, hey, I have a job for you to do. And they were like, oh, cool. And the job was this. Work for me. Be filled with God's Spirit. Go out in the world, just like I did, and just like you did when we were together. This is your job now. Go do it. They clearly didn't know how to do it, so they are aimlessly fishing in the middle of the night instead. And we never do this, right? We're never like, oh, that new thing that I want to start, that seems hard. So I'm going to go back to what's familiar and safe. But then what happens when the thing that works, that always works, that we know works because we've done it 100 times, doesn't work? They worked all night and brought in nothing, not one fish. And they can't go back to fishing. That life is not for them anymore. They have to take what Jesus said to heart and set off on this new adventure. So they get to shore. Verse 9 says, they get to shore, they find breakfast waiting for them. Yes. Fish cooking over a charcoal fire and some bread. Bring some of the fish you've caught, Jesus said. So Simon Peter went aboard. Now he's helpful. Dragged the net to shore. There were 153 large fish. The net had not torn. Now come and have some breakfast, Jesus said. John, the writer of John, sprinkles like all these little things throughout the book that are very meaningful if you just pay attention to them. So here Jesus is cooking fish over a charcoal fire. Just want you to hold that in your mind for a moment, because we're going to come back to it. They have caught 153 fish. There's like 5 of them. There's no refrigeration. What are you going to do with that many fish? That's enough fish to feed the entire village. And, interesting little exchange, Jesus is already cooking fish and bread on a fire. He doesn't even need their fish. But he gave them fish to catch anyways. How easy is it for people of faith to be like, we have to do it all? God, I feel like we imagine God sometimes just like passively being like, well, if you don't do it, no one's going to do it. So go do it. Now, to be clear, there is a ton of room for meaningful work in God's world, right? If there wasn't, what are we doing here? This is a waste of time. So, I mean, hopefully we're not wasting our time. There is a ton of room for our participation. But whose hands make the sun rise every day? Whose breath makes us think and pray and love and hope every moment of our lives? Who is the Lord of the world? Who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills? What's the modern equivalent of that? Who owns the Bitcoin? You know, I don't know. Do any of y'all own cattle on hills? This is Florida. There's no hills. And we don't have any cattle. If you own cattle, come find me after church. Jesus is like, yes, bring some of your fish. I don't need it, but bring it. We'll make even more. And Jesus is just doing what he does best, taking care of people, taking care of his friends. Okay, back to the charcoal fire. The last time, there are multiple charcoal fires that have to be put out in the book of John. The last time we encounter a charcoal fire is in John chapter 18, where Peter insists loudly and emphatically to anyone who will listen to him that he will remain loyal to Jesus no matter what, and then promptly denies him 3 times. And I want to share a portion of this story with you because it is going to bring us back to Jesus on the beach. Nothing in John happens by accident. So, this is after Jesus has been arrested, after Peter chops a guy's ear off in the Garden of Gethsemane, and Jesus is like, back on his head, everything's fine. Except for me, everything won't be fine for me. So, this after that, Jesus has been arrested, taken to the temple. It says this, Simon Peter followed Jesus, as did another one of the disciples. That other disciple was acquainted with the high priest, so he was allowed to enter the courtyard. Peter had to stay outside the gate. But then the disciple who knew the high priest spoke to the woman guarding the gate, and she let Peter in, and she said, "You're not one of those man's disciples, are you?" And he said, "No, I'm not. No. Because it was cold, the household servants and guards were warming themselves around a charcoal fire. And Peter stood with them, warming himself. And inside, the high priest began asking Jesus about his followers and what he had been teaching them. And meanwhile, as Simon Peter was standing by the fire warming himself, they asked him again, "You're not one of his disciples, are you?" And he said, "No, not I." But then one of the household slaves of the priest, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had chopped off, was like, but didn't I see you in the garden? I know it was dark, but you look familiar. I think I would remember someone chopping off my cousin's ear. And again, Peter denied it. And immediately a rooster crowed. Now, this is quite a scene, right? Because Jesus is telling the high priest the truth, and Peter is telling lies. Jesus is speaking openly, which will lead him to death. Peter is doing his best to hide, which will actually save his life. And we can scoff at Peter, like, how dare Peter? Okay, at least he was there, unlike everyone else who scattered to the wind immediately, except for this one other disciple. So he and one other person. None of the other disciples know what's happening. They don't have text messages. They have no idea what's happening to Jesus. And they're too afraid to get close and find out. And Peter has come for all the right reasons. He's come because he is faithful and loyal, and he cares so much for his friend, but he never understood more than half of what Jesus was saying. And that's going to let him down. Because he's cold and tired, and the adrenaline that led him to attack someone only a few hours before is gone. He knows if he's spotted and identified as a follower of Jesus, he will face, and mind you, the person who chopped off someone's ear, the high priest's servant no less, not some random person, not that, random people should have their ears chopped off, but a very important person got their ear chopped off, he will face the same fate as Jesus. And all those thoughts come together, right? And what do we have left? Panic and lies. And John tells the story very simply, because some of the other gospels get more dramatic with it. They're like, the rooster crows, Peter goes out and bursts into tears. Or instead of saying, no, I'm not one of his disciples, they're like, one of the other gospels has Peter cursing. No! Insert bad words. I am not. There's children in here, so Y'all know. You're adults. John tells the story very simply. But we've been living in Peter's skin for a couple of minutes now, right? Can you feel what he might have been feeling? The dread and the fear and the shame. How heartbreaking to be so near to your dear friend as he is abused and interrogated and beaten. How terrifying to want to support someone you love so much while being afraid in your bones of dying. How hopeless to know there's nothing you can do, not in this moment or any other moment, to prevent this from happening, that you're powerless. How much shame. To be so dedicated to Jesus that you actually follow him when everyone else runs away. You get as close as you possibly can. But then when you open your mouth, that nauseating taste of fear takes over. And you're like, no. I don't know him. Is that not the definition of trauma? Is that not the definition of horror and pain? Every detail of this moment would have been burned in Peter's memory forever. The sights, the sounds, the words spoken, the words he didn't speak, and the smells. Because Peter denied Jesus by a charcoal fire. Charcoal has a very distinctive smell. I take a walk with my baby all the time, and every once in a while I'm like, somebody's cooking. Not me. We're eating peanut butter, but it's a very distinctive smell. And now for Peter, the worst night of his life is going to be imprinted on his brain. Every time he sees or smells a charcoal fire, it's going to take him right back there to that place of sadness and loss and disappointment and fear. But then we see Jesus on the beach cooking over a charcoal fire. There is no doubt it reminds Peter of that night. And there's no doubt Jesus knows what Peter did. Why? Who cares if it's a charcoal fire? Why? Because it's going to bring out all the grief and all the pain, right? If it comes out, the wound in Peter can be healed, and maybe also the one in Jesus. I know we're like, well, Jesus, we can tend to think, maybe we don't actually actively think this, but This is kind of the process. Well, Jesus is going to die anyways, so it had to happen. Like, Peter had to deny him because that's just what he said would happen. How would you like it if on the worst night of your life, your best friend was like, nope, or your partner, or your kids, or someone you love deeply? So after breakfast in chapter 21, Jesus and Peter take a walk on the beach, and they have this conversation. After breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" And he said, "Yes, Lord. You know I love you. Then feed my lambs," Jesus told him. And then Jesus repeated the question, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And "Yes, Lord," Peter said, "You know I love you." "Then take care of my sheep," Jesus said. And a third time he asked him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" And Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a third time. And he said, "You know everything. You know I love you." And Jesus said, "Then feed my sheep." What? Okay, this is where I want us to land. Imagine Peter. Like we were imagining Peter in the temple, like all this darkness, right? Now imagine him now on the beach near Jesus, the person he thought was dead and gone forever. Mind you, the person he thought, like, my last interaction with this person is him knowing that I didn't do what I said I would do. He's full of nervous anxiety, I'm sure, and also like uncontrollable joy. Like, Jesus is here, like next to me, in the flesh. I can sit next to him. And he knew it was Jesus, and he was so excited that he jumped off the boat and swam to shore. He's like dripping wet. It's probably freezing, because it's only a few days after they said it was cold, and they were warming themselves by the fire. So he's probably freezing. He just wanted to be as close to Jesus as possible. Spend every second he could with him. One remarkable thing about this interchange between Jesus and Peter is that in forgiving him, Jesus gives Peter a job to do. When Peter says, "Yes, I love you," Jesus doesn't say, "Okay, forgiven. Got it. It's all right." He says, "Well then, feed my lambs. Look after my sheep. Feed my sheep." 3 questions. Why? To correspond to Peter's 3 denials. 3 for a reminder, 3 for completeness, 3 for every time Peter couldn't do it, now he has an opportunity to do it. Peter's night of pain is forgiven because of Jesus' night of pain. Y'all can come back up here. Come on. Jesus takes Peter away from all the other people. They're walking on the beach. And it says the beloved disciples following them at a distance. Probably John, the writer. Probably because he can't bear to let Jesus out of his sight. And so he's hearing this interchange. And they're walking slowly along the shore. And Jesus asks the question, this one question, "Peter, do you love me?" These are not the questions he asked. Do you regret what you did? Are you sorry you denied me? How could you do that after promising you'd never do such a thing? None of those questions. None of the questions we want to ask when someone hurts us. Instead, just one simple question that goes right to the heart of the matter. And I think maybe we would do well if this were the question we were asking when we hurt each other. Do you love me? Because what's the subtext of that? Even though this happened, did it change our relationship? Or was that just a mistake and we're still really on the same team? And the answer Peter gives every time is not, he doesn't get like a pat on the back, like, "Oh, Peter, I'm proud of you." Instead, he gets a challenge, a commission. "Okay, Peter, if you love me, then it's time to learn how to be a shepherd and feed my sheep." Why is that important? Because who is the good shepherd? Jesus. So he's sharing. He's not only trusting Peter to get back to meaningful work that matters instead of just fishing, which he apparently can't do anymore. He's sharing his own work and his own purpose with Peter. Jesus is the good shepherd. Now Peter is going to share in this task. Even though Peter made a mistake, even though they both went through that trauma, even though Peter doesn't think he's good enough for anything anymore, let alone to do anything for Jesus, he might as well just go back to fishing. All of that, and all Jesus wanted to know was that if Peter loved him. Because if the answer is yes, I do love you, then Peter's going to be given even more responsibility, not less. Even with all that had happened. It wasn't like, oh, before you did that, you were going to be the founder of my church. We were going to call you Peter the Rock. But now that's off the table. You're going to have to prove yourself before you can, get to that level again. No. He's like, but if you still love me, then here's even more responsibility. Here's even more meaningful work to do. Because if you love me, that's all I need to know. And that's what it looks like to repair a relationship, isn't it? Not ignoring the problem, not ignoring our pain, not just carrying on as though nothing had happened, or being passive aggressive and punishing someone else and being like, I forgive you, and then we didn't. But bringing it all out. All the fear and all the disappointment and all the hurt, and finding what is underneath, which is love. So no matter where your life has taken you, no matter what your relationship with God looks like right now, the secret of everything is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. As long as there's a little bit of love left. Because with love, it is always possible to move forward. With love, it is always possible to move forward. We have 2 more songs. I think they're excellent. So I just invite you to stand and sing them with us. Feel free to sing out loud. It's super loud in here. No one will hear you if you're an awful singer. And just reflect on that statement. Hold that statement in your mind and your heart as we go through these songs. That with love, it is always possible to move forward. Where can you move forward?
I lift my eyes up to the hill. This my morning song, where my strength comes from. I lift my eyes up to the hills. This my evening song, where my help comes from. This is the gravity of love, just as the moon follows the sun. You're all around me, you're holding everything. This is the hope of every land, just as the universe expands. Your love is reaching, you're holding everything. We lift our eyes up to the hills. When will our help come? Lord, we cry, how long? We lift our eyes up to the hills. Even as we run, hope is chasing us. This is the gravity of love, just as the moon follows the sun. You're all around me, you're holding everything. This is the hope of every land, just as the universe expands. Your love is reaching, you're holding everything.
As the moon follows the sun, you're all around me. You're holding everything. This is the hope of living land. Just as the universe expands, your love is reaching. You're holding everything. Oh, the vapor of it all. It's a chasing of the wind, the powers of the earth, so pale and thin. We will set our hearts on you again. Heaven taunts the hearts of men. We can feel it from within, the beauty of it all, the mystery, swelling of our voice, a rising sea. Holy, you are God of holy. Trees up their heads to you, oceans they dance to you. You are holy. Oh, the mystery of it all. I could never be with them, never find the words or understand fullness of our God. Become our man. Holy, you are God are holy. Trees bow their heads to you, oceans say dance to you. You are holy, infinite and holy. Billion suns rise to you, clouds make the skies to you, mountains stand tall to you, valleys bow down to you, everything rising
be composed for you, kingdoms to ruins for you, vapor finds ground in you, music finds sound in you, everything rising, everything rising, everything rising, sing it, you are home.
Be seated. Thanks for being here, y'all. Seeing your faces makes me happy. Also, if you're watching online, I can't see your face. I only see a camera, but you make me happy too. Yeah, you can clap. It means something to me because it means we're all participating in moving forward together. We're all doing something meaningful. We're all creating together a safe space where all people can explore faith, where questions are welcome and we genuinely care about each other, and we're inclusive of all people. Makes it all worth it for me. Okay, that's enough of that. Emotions. If you would like, you may notice a beautiful floral display in the back with a light pointed at it. We are doing Easter photos, so they're free. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to do anything other than smile at the camera. Rich is somewhere, and he's way back there, waving his arms. He'll be taking your photos, so grab your kids if you would like a family photo, or just yourself, or a friend, or do whatever you want. Get a stranger, take a photo. It's up to you. And then make sure you give us your information so we can get the photo to you, because they are profesh, arranged by Jarrett, who is a profesh camera person. If I haven't met you and it's your first time, come say hi to me on the way out. I'd love to meet you. Also, this isn't one of those pitches where we're like, and now you can sign up to come to Different Church every Sunday for the rest of your life. There is no escape. No. Actually, what I want you to know is if you've only been in church, this is like your first time in a very long time, or this is the only time we ever see you, like we'd love for you to come back because I'd love to spend more time with you. But the takeaway is actually not that you have to commit to anything. It's just that I hope today felt like a safe space. I hope no matter what your church history looked like, even if it was terrible and no good and messed up and harmful, that this helped you connect with God in some way. And if the answer to that is yes, then we've done our job. Check out the Stuff Center on the way out, because there are free stickers and also other stuff. And eat the snacks, because I don't want to take them home. I do not need 100 2-bite brownies that I will eat in one bite. There is kid stuff outside, so make sure the babies get to do all of that, okay? And then stay tuned, because we are officially signed up for all 3 Pride events in June. We will be walking in the parade. Jared is working on a new t-shirt design. Yes. It's going to be cool. We also have booth space at Family Day, which is, I believe, the 11th of June, downtown St. Pete, and then the Grand Central Party, which is Sunday the 26th. So literally after church, you will already have found a parking space because you will have been here so early, and then you can just go to the party. Just make sure it's not one of those 2 hours, because they will ticket you. Is that all? If it's not, come back next week for more awkward announcements. Yay. Yeah, let's pray. And then we will go have a most excellent Easter. As the risen Christ called out, Peter, do you love me? On the other side of death, may you hear your own name on the lips of God, calling you into hope, even when your heart is shattered, even when the world seems gray and harsh, even when our minds remind us of the ways we have let others down. Even then, when we hear our names, love rises, love persists, love always wins. Let us go forth in the collective delight for the privilege of being alive. Amen. Happy Easter. Bye.